Most Christians assume faith alone is clearly taught in the Bible, but what if the Bible itself says otherwise? Many believers today embrace the idea that faith without works is sufficient for salvation, largely due to teachings popularized by Martin Luther. Yet here's the startling truth. The phrase faith alone appears only once in the entire Bible, and Scripture explicitly rejects it. After deep study of theology and Scripture, historical evidence proves that faith alone was an addition introduced centuries later, not rooted in original biblical texts. Today I'll show you exactly why faith alone isn't biblical, uncover what Scripture truly teaches, and explain how grasping this truth can transform your spiritual life. Let's dive in. First, let's look at how the Bible consistently portrays faith as active obedience rather than mere intellectual belief. From Abraham's willingness to sacrifice Isaac, Moses courageously leading Israel out of Egypt, to the apostles boldly preaching the gospel, faith in Scripture always involved decisive action. Abraham is particularly instructive. Scripture explicitly praises his faith because he obeyed God's difficult command, Genesis 22, Hebrews 11, not just because he mentally accepted God's promise. Imagine if Abraham had simply believed but never acted. His faith would have lacked true substance. Similarly, Moses' faith was defined by action when he confronted Pharaoh, risking everything to fulfill God's command. Genuine biblical faith compels action, even when it's tough. But there's an even more compelling reason faith alone doesn't align with Scripture. Martin Luther himself altered the Bible to support it. Luther intentionally added the word alone to Romans 3:28 in his German translation, making it say, "We are justified by faith alone," a phrase never found in any original manuscript. Imagine the reaction today if a prominent theologian deliberately changed Scripture. Historical records clearly confirm Luther's deliberate alteration, significantly impacting Protestant theology. Consider the profound implications. Centuries of theology influenced by one man's decision to edit Scripture. Realizing this fact dismantles the notion that faith alone is purely biblical. Next, let's tackle James 2, a passage many Christians find challenging. Often dismissed as problematic by Protestants, this scripture actually offers a powerful solution for biblical unity. James explicitly states, "Faith without works is dead." Rather than contradicting Paul, James clarifies the nature of genuine faith. Real faith always manifests itself in actions. Picture two Christians, one actively serving others through love and charity, the other professing faith yet doing nothing. History gives us countless examples, saints who dedicated their lives to service compared to individuals who professed belief yet failed to demonstrate it. James decisively calls the second believer's faith dead. Understanding this helps bridge denominational divides, emphasizing that authentic biblical faith is inseparable from action. Yet the strongest evidence against faith alone comes directly from Jesus Christ himself. In the powerful parable of the sheep and the goats, Matthew 25, Jesus explicitly describes the final judgment based on compassionate actions, feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, visiting prisoners, not merely intellectual belief. Consider carefully. Jesus evaluates believers on how actively they live their faith, not on what they merely profess. This vivid lesson underscores undeniably that biblical faith always expresses itself through practical acts of mercy and love. Imagine standing before Christ, hearing him say your entrance into his kingdom depended on how you actively loved others. This reveals the heart of true biblical faith. Finally, let's briefly examine the Apostle Paul, often mistakenly cited in support of faith alone. In Galatians chapter 5, verse 6, Paul states clearly that true faith expresses itself through love, active, tangible love. Paul's own life illustrates this beautifully. He devoted himself tirelessly to preaching, charity, sacrifice, and loving service. Clearly, Paul's theology aligns completely with the biblical concept of active living faith. Now, you understand clearly why faith alone isn't biblical, and what Scripture actually teaches about faith and salvation. We've explored how genuine biblical faith requires obedience, revealed Luther's alteration of Romans, clarified James's important insights, unpacked Christ's powerful teaching, and clarified Paul's authentic perspective. Dispelling the myth of faith alone provides clarity grounded firmly in Scripture, enriching your spiritual journey and strengthening your faith. If this resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. For more insights into Catholic truth rooted deeply in Scripture, please subscribe or watch another video here. Thanks for watching, and may God bless you abundantly.